This is Wild About Liberty, where the community joins together. Now here's your host, Terry Wild.
Glad you tuned into the program. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Terry Wild. I'm the host of Wild About Liberty. And we've been on the air now for about going on 2 months, somewhere in there. And we're kind of feeling our way through this situation. And we're here to give you useful information. We're here to let you hear from people who have the ability, they have the insight, both spiritually and politically. And so our first guest today is Lawrence Hebron. You've been a regular and a valuable contributor to the program. Thanks for coming on, Lawrence.
Well, thank you. I appreciate what you're doing here. It's a great work, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to contribute to that.
Well, you know, we've been having a conversation that I'm really liking. I'm feeling we're saying some good stuff, and we're letting people hear and make some evaluations about where things stand. First of all, spiritually, as Christians, we have to represent Christ and his truth, but we also are supposed to be involved in politics, which is kind of controversial in many places as Christians. So we're taking the side of you got to get out and vote. If you don't, you're just handing this world over to the devil. And so people need to decide if that's true and if they should be involved, because statistically, the surveys that we're aware of say that only 50% of people who identify as Christians are registered to vote. And of that 50%, only 25% vote. But that's not the bad news. The bad news is if more of us voted, we statistically couldn't lose. So there's the situation. And what are your feelings?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned this. Over 100 years ago, Mark Twain, who's not normally thought of as being a great Christian, said something along those same lines in a magazine interview. He said that our first duty is to God. And if Christians would simply vote, we would win every election and we'd win it with ease. And he said the results would be amazing. It would be transformative. We're still the majority in this nation. And if we just get Christians out there having their impact and voting a clean ticket, Twain talked about that too, voting a clean ticket, a good Christian ticket, we'd win every election and it would have a tremendous effect on this nation. Unfortunately, for some reason, so many of our pastors and misleaders have taken the point of view that we need to stay out of politics, that politics is dirty, or we're expected to stay away from this type of thing. But politics is where the power is. Politics is all about the acquisition, the distribution, and the use of power. We tend to think about parties and all of that, and that's how it works out. But it's really all about power. And when you think about it, Satan really doesn't have much power on his own. He doesn't have anything that God doesn't allow him. So he's always looking for power centers to work through. Well, historically, where have those power centers always been? They've always been in capitals, and it's been exercised through politics. So if we Christians leave the field, guess who wins? It's not us.
That's exactly right. Well, one of the vehicles that we are using and that I think God has brought to us is KXEX Radio. And the founders of this program are really committed, godly American people who want to make America and keep America as it has always been. And so that gives us this opportunity to be on the air right now. But it's more than just that, because this program and the way they arranged it at KXEX is we're not just on the air. We're on Facebook Live right now. We're on Rumble and YouTube and Twitter and a whole bunch of other platforms. So this is a real opportunity. And not just for us, not just for you and me, but it's an opportunity for people like Ellen Autry, Dennis McCord, and Jim Franklin, Pastor Franklin, and a number of other people who have programs on KXEX. So for you that are listening locally, let people know about us. Tell your friends and pick a program you like, whether it's this one or one of the others that I mentioned, and get the word out. It would really help us because we need to get that message out, Lawrence, that I'm taking the position that it's not just a good thing to vote. I think Scripture makes it a duty, an obligation to vote because we have to represent Christ in civil government. And God created civil government. In Romans, it tells us that he created civil government to restrain evil. And he made us the representatives for him in our civil activities and the way we live our life socially. So what's your take on that from a biblical point of view?
Well, we're recording this just a few days before Christmas. And when we think of Christmas, unfortunately, we think about chestnuts roasting on an open fire. We think about glistening trees, we think about reindeer and all these other things and way too much shopping. But Christmas is all about Christ. That's the first few letters in the word is all about Christ. And Jesus came here not to have a party, not to have a celebration, not to open presents under the tree. In 1 John 3:8, it states why he came here. And I regard this as basically Jesus's mission statement. It says, for the Son of God manifested or showed up for this purpose to destroy the works of the devil. That's what Jesus came to do, destroy the works of the devil. And all the sing-songy pastors, they'll talk about a lot of other things that are related to that. Salvation and mercy and compassion and all of that. Those are all definitely part of the Christian life and part of what we're supposed to be contributing to and accomplishing. But we need to keep first and foremost that Jesus came here to destroy the works of the devil. And that means that our job as Christians is to follow him and to do that also. Well, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the surest place to find the devil is in the capitals around the world because that's where the power is. So we cannot be afraid to move into those capitals. So again, here as we're approaching the Christmas season and Jesus entering this world in a physical human way, we have to remember why he did that. And it wasn't just so we could sing nice songs and go shopping 2,000 years later. It was so that we would know how to engage and destroy the works of the devil. And that means we've got to get involved in politics. And you mentioned about Romans. One of the biggest confusers of so many of our Christians and Christian misleaders comes from Romans 13, where Paul wrote about how we have to submit to authority. And I've heard this lecture and I've heard this sermon so many times throughout the years where you have a pastor saying, well, maybe, if you're a Republican during the Biden administration, well, I'm sorry, but you're supposed to submit to authority. Or if you're a Democrat during the Trump administration, I'm sorry, but you've got to submit to authority. And they miss the whole point. They do not understand the meaning of the word authority. Authority is not just somebody who's got a brass nameplate on his desk or on the panel beside the door to his office. The root word of authority is author. And it's strange. When I was in college, I majored in both history and political science. And so you're always talking about power. History is basically political history. So you're always talking about power. And I still remember, perhaps for such a time as this, a lecture from one of my professors. And he was talking about political power. And he made the point that throughout most of history, political power has been based on brute force. And we see this, playground rules. The guy with the biggest biceps gets to decide which game we're going to play. We're going to play kickball or basketball or what. So, and it's been that way throughout history. The person with the biggest army or the strongest metal for their swords, they are the ones who decide how things work. But he also made the point this professor made the point that there is a different type of power, and it's called authority. And it's not based on brute force. And this is the only legitimate power that there is. And that's because it's based on the author, which again is the root word of authority. So how authority differentiates itself from the rest of brutality, brute-based power, is there's some author that we follow, that we try to accomplish the goals of that author. Now, historically, the authors have either been tradition, like common law. So common law says you're a Scotsman. You say, hey, I get to wear a skirt because I'm a Scotsman. Something like that. Or it's been some universally accepted document like the Magna Carta or the Constitution. But of course, the ultimate author of all time is God.
Right.
So when writing about submit to authority, he was not saying you need to submit to anyone who's your boss. He's saying you need to submit to those people who are doing it God's way. And if a politician, if an office holder is not doing it God's way, because he's the ultimate author, you are not obligated to follow. You are not obligated to obey and submit. In fact, you might very well be obligated to fight back, as we've seen many times throughout the Bible.
Well, Hitler would be one of the prime examples. I mean, he would be an extreme example.
Right. I mean, Germans in Nazi Germany were obligated to fight back. He was not an authority because he wasn't doing it God's way. So this simplistic notion that anybody who has a position, that outranks you, that you have to submit to them, that's nonsense. In fact, it's
biblical nonsense.
It is. It's biblical nonsense. It's very contrary to what the Bible teaches. Look at all the various prophets that fought against the various tyrants, both within Israel and outside of Israel. Submitting to King Ahab and Queen Jezebel was not part of the playbook for God.
Sure.
And so he sent powerful prophets to fight against that. So it's the same thing for us now. You are not an authority simply because you have a brass nameplate on your desk, even if that desk is the Resolute desk in the Oval Office of the White House. If the president is not doing it God's way, he or she is not an authority, and it's our obligation to resist.
What a good point. That is an awesome point. And it needs to be understood. And I just love the way you lay things out and explain the Bible. You really have the ability to be very succinct, very clear, and I need that. I need to hear that kind of explanation, and I'm glad you're able to be on this program. And I'm sure the people that are listening are getting what you're saying, and so we don't have to obey laws that are contrary to biblical truth, to God's word. And one of the people that just joined us on the program, I want to welcome Angie Brown.
Hello.
What a pleasure to have her on the program. We love you, and you're a part of what we do here in Fresno County. Why don't you just take a minute and introduce yourself to people?
Well, like he said, my name is Angie Brown. My name is Angie Brown. I'm a resident of Fresno, California, recently by way of LA. I moved here in 2020, just when the COVID lockdowns and nonsense started to happen. I was driving over the hill when that was going on. And I, too, am a child of God. I believe in God wholeheartedly. And I've been saved all my life, pretty much since I was about 12 years old.
Nice.
So I grew up in the church. I read my Bible. I pray every day. And, when this COVID, I want to say catastrophe started to happen, I was working in a nursing home, and, you could just see the gradual tyranny and the gradual deletion of our free will and rights started to fade away. At first it was, we wanted to you guys can wear a mask if you want to. If you don't have to, you don't want to, you don't have to. And then it was, oh, well, you have to wear a mask. It's mandatory that you have to wear a mask, you know, when the numbers started creeping up for whatever reasons. And then we started to get tested, you know, very frequently. First it was once a week, and then it was once a month, and then it was once a week.
For all the employees, right?
For all the employees. Mm-hmm. And then it became twice a week. You know, when it depended on when the numbers, you know, if they elevated, then we had to do it twice a week. If it decreased, then we had to go back to once a week. It was just nonsense. And, you know, I like I said, I'm a child of God, and I know God created us in his own image, and he don't make no junk. He don't make no junk. And he created our bodies to heal itself. And so I started to do a lot of research and, you know, doing a lot of reading and learning for myself, along with what I already knew, which was there's no chemical in the world that can stop you from getting sick.
Right.
There's just no injection. There's no pill that will stop you from getting sick. And with that knowledge alone, it just kind of frustrated me. And so I started to fight back, you know, and in this nursing home, I, you know, was like asking questions, and I'm like, why do we have to wear masks? What is the point? And then, you know, we were wearing the cloth mask, and everybody was making fun of, you know, trying to get into the spirit of everything. And you would get the different, you know, cloths with the, you know, like the decorations and everything. Right. And then they said, well, no, you can't wear those kind of masks. Okay. So then they started making us wear the blue ones, the surgical ones. And, you know, I used to work with surgeons, and they didn't have to wear masks. Once they got done with their surgery, they removed the mask immediately after they walked out of the surgery room. So when they were saying that this is supposed to prevent sickness and prevent spread of disease, and I'm like, that's nonsense, because even surgeons don't do that. So it was just a lot of stuff that didn't add up and didn't, you know, and I had a lot of questions, and I guess I was asking too many questions. So they terminated me. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I'm, you know, starting to get the game. I'm starting to learn the you know, how they are. So I just started praying, Lord, help me to maneuver through this, because I know me, and I can get a little fiery tempered if you know, you're messing with, because when you're messing with my money, you're messing with my emotions, because I have a family, I have a mortgage. And so it just started to, you know, kind of affect me really hard. So, you know, I kind of took a sabbatical, and I stopped nursing for a while, and I, you know, did the whole unemployment thing. And, you know, I've been wanting to start my own business for, you know, way before I moved out here to Fresno. And I also wanted to get into the community as well and get involved and different things. And that's when I found the Liberty Coalition, and, you know, met some great people, Larry Hudspeth and Joe and nice. Terry, and, you know, just a great group of people that I started to surround myself with, which kind of helped me feel like that I'm not alone in this, you know. Amen. And there's a lot of people. God places people in your life for a reason, and he knew that I was going to need this type of you know, group of people to kind of help me and give me the courage to do the things that I started to do. So I started to really focus on getting my business, which is called On Duty ASAP. And, you know, I got my got my gear on here, and, you know, so it's basically a home health service that I actually reimagined. So it's eventually it's starting with a home health agency, and I would go out to the homes, and, you know, we do concierge, nursing care, skilled care, transportation, doing all the things that, you know, allow people who aren't able to, or who don't want to go into the hospital, or refusing to go into these nursing homes, which have become killing fields, basically. And
well, when you say that, you know, that whole COVID situation, Lawrence, is an example of authority, right? Are you going to obey this authority, What you, Angie,
Yeah.
decided, no.
I didn't want to participate.
It's not true,
In the
first of all.
confusion. It's not true. It's a lie. It's a hoax. And I'm not participating in it. And God just plays it on. I felt a fervor about not participating in it. And, you know, it kind of affected my family because my husband's like, well, we got to work. We have to, you know, have an income. And I'm like, honey, God is my provider. God will make a way when there are no ways. God is my provider. So that's where my faith started to grow and grow and grow. And, you know, he said, and then, you know, my husband tends to say that I'm blaming God. Well, no, I'm depending on God because that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to put our whole trust and give away our burdens and trust in him. He knows what the plan is. He knows what the ending is going to be. So we have to put our full force trust in God, our full faith in God. And that kind of brings me to another thing about the nurses that are succumbing to these mandates and to these, you know, regulations that they're imposing and coercing our nurses to abide by. And it's just unfortunate that a lot of them don't have that faith and that dependence on God strong enough to where they can actually step out. Could you imagine if the nurses at all the facilities and hospitals just said no, just stopped complying with the madness? Because I don't know if anybody knows this, but the hospitals are still making them wear masks. They're still making them test frequently. And they're still saying if you don't get this shot, you will, you know, they'll either take their duties away.
We don't know what's in that needle.
Nobody knows what's in it. Even the doctors don't know what's in it.
Let me ask Larry, Lawrence, what's your thoughts, Lawrence, and do you have any questions for Angie?
Well, first of all, I'd like to compliment her for her courage in making this stand against this attempt to control us. And Big Pharma has become, I think, one of the agents of the power elite in trying to control us and whatever their objectives might be. But I saw this too, you know, as COVID was progressing. You know, we first started to hear about it in January of 2020. And I remember in early February of 2020, I said two things about it. I said, first of all, I think this is going to prove to be more of a political and economic opportunity than a medical emergency. And I think that's proven to be correct. Yep. And I also said that I think we ought to treat adults like adults, give them all the information that we have and let them decide for themselves the nature of the danger. And if they don't want to wear a mask, and masks really are absurd. I mean, I'm not a medical guy, but I know that viruses are very, very, very tiny. And they can just zip right through the fabric of a mask and no trouble. In fact, I heard a medical doctor say wearing a mask to stop the COVID virus is kind of like relying on a chain link fence to stop a swarm of mosquitoes. You know, it's not good. So just give adults the information they need and trust them what to do with it. If you walk into a restaurant, don't close the restaurants. If you walk into a restaurant and you hear some people coughing or it's too crowded, you feel uncomfortable, turn around and leave. That should be our decision, not someone else's.
Right.
But right before the vaccine came out, I had just 3 chance meetings with medical doctors. It was a cardiologist, a radiologist, and an emergency room physician. And this emergency room guy, he said, I'm swimming in this every day and I don't wear a mask and I haven't gotten it. But all 3 of them were familiar with the results of the vaccines, the test information. And all 3 of them said, I'm not taking that stuff. And the word poison kept coming up in the conversation. And I didn't prompt them at all. I didn't ask them even any question. We just, other than, what do you think of this vaccine? And boy, they just started to unload. It's like an erupting volcano. They saw the dangers of it. And in fact, when within a few months of it being introduced, we started to get the adverse reaction reports and the number of deaths associated with it. And I told this one doctor who's a friend of mine, I said, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert here, but it seems to me that if we had about any other pharmaceutical product that had that kind of a death rate, that many deaths associated with it, we would have pulled it a long time ago. He says, "Oh, no question."
After
There's
50,
no
deaths, they pulled the I forget what vaccine it was, but after 50, they pulled it from the market. FDA has been corrupted. All of I call them the 3-letter hookers because they all have become corrupt. The FDA, the CDC, the NIH, all of them, and they are no longer in it for the benefit of the people. Well, they are in it for the money.
Here's the thing I'd like you both to comment on. Of the 3 main pharmaceutical companies in the world, Blackhawk is a major shareholder in all of them, all 3. And what's the other investor that's
Vanguard?
Vanguard is a major shareholder in all 3. So you can't depend on the testing. I never, my own decision, I came to my own conclusion. I don't believe the testing.
Nope.
I don't believe the
research, the studies, the non-peer-reviewed studies. You can't depend on any of them. And then people are like, "You're against science." Well, no, this is not science. This is chemical bioweapon warfare that they are committing against the American people and the world. And people are dying, and people don't want to act like, they want to act like they don't see the people dying from this, and they want to turn blind, stick their head in the hole like the ostriches do, and just ignore it. And I'm just done. I'm just done. And I, like I said, I wanted to become a very active member of the community, and I am running for city council because I'm just done. I'm done. We can't even get potholes filled in the street. You can't name a street that does not have potholes in it. So things are just becoming just crazy. And it's just time for us to go back to sanity and go back to God. Go back to what this country was founded on, which was that we trust and believe in God. Because when we were praying in school, there weren't no mass shootings. There weren't no, healthcare centers being built in the schools. We were learning reading, writing, and arithmetic. We weren't learning this indoctrination that they're trying to impose on our children. And then they weren't trying to take our medical freedoms away. We just got to get back to the way it used to be.
Well, Lawrence, it's interesting that Angie's running for
city council.
Yes. You're running for school board, right?
Right.
And so here you both are taking some action and trying to make a difference. I congratulate both of you.
Thank you.
One thing, if I could, I wanted to kind of build on something that Angie was talking about relying on God's cures. Kind of ironically, right now, I don't know if you're those who are watching the program can tell, but I'm inside my car right now because I have dropped my wife off to a homeopathic doctor here in Tustin, who's had a very long and very successful career. Now, one of the things he does is he analyzes the various flus, the types of flu that are presenting themselves from year to year, and he works up a solution. It's basically a charged water, and you take this. Now, some years ago, I probably would have rolled my eyes at this stuff, but I don't know. I have been taking this charged water, and all through the COVID, I was very vulnerable to things. I never got COVID. I didn't take the vaccine, and my wife and I both decided that we would rather take our chances with a disease than with the vaccine.
With the cure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Neither of us got the vaccine. Neither of us got COVID, but we have been taking our doctor's solution, this charged water that he fixed up specifically for COVID.
And that would be for an immune builder, right? Of some kind?
Yes, it reacts to that type of thing. Now, here's kind of to show how powerful this was. I did get pneumonia in December of 21, but it was not because of the COVID. I went into the hospital, and they were so convinced that I had COVID that they put me with the COVID patients.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of all of these COVID people, and I didn't get COVID. So even with that, I mean, and they tested me. They tested me there. I had taken, I had to take a couple of tests for COVID before I went to urgent care, which is kind of interesting. You had to prove that you weren't sick before you went to medical treatment. Isn't that kind of putting the cart before
Backwards,
the horse?
yes.
Yeah.
I had tests there to show I did not have COVID. They said, well, you have pneumonia. You need to get into the hospital, get into the emergency room. So I went down there. They did a test for me, but the symptoms were so strong. It made them to believe, led them to believe that I had COVID. They put me with all the other COVID patients. I'm sitting elbow to elbow with these people, but I never got COVID.
Nice.
And it's all because of natural solutions that are available to us.
Praise God.
Angie, tell us about your business and let people know what you are offering. And do you have a website?
I'm working on my website, but I do have flyers, and I do have an email, and my business is called On Duty ASAP Healthcare. And it is a more of a, it's a holistic, naturalistic home health agency, and I'm the sole proprietor. And so I go to the different, I get my patients. I'm in the process of accumulating clientele. And I just go, we do skilled care, nursing care, which is based off of holistic nursing. And then I also do a concierge service where...
What does that mean?
Well, for those that are bedridden or home-ridden or in their homes and they are not able to, go to the grocery store, or if they need help with applying for different insurances, we just finished our open enrollment. So if they need help with that, or if they need whatever it is, whatever the service, whatever needs they have, I would be able to do that. I also provide transportation to doctor's appointments and to the grocery store and things like that. We also have nutritional counseling. So I have a on standby nutritionist who is athletic and runs marathons, and she has her own nutritional service. So she provides dietary nutrition, because basically the way we get rid of all of these diseases and keep our body healthy is through nutrition, and to eliminate as much toxicity as we can. We have the 5G in our atmosphere,
and a certain pH factor,
and the water that we drink and the foods that we eat. They all play a part into how our bodies are healthy and how we strengthen our immune system. So we really need to get more educated on that. So I have that service provided. And then I also sell what we call Avini Health, and that is a naturalistic. It's a zeolite lava rock that is, and it's through Avini Health, and I sell this particular product, and it comes in pain relief medication. It's a cell detoxifier. So if we can detoxify our cell through a cellular level, which basically enables our organs to function in a more healthier way, then we can get rid of everything.
Well, almost
Cancers.
all of our medicine comes from plant life.
Yes.
So
not the conventional medication. Not now.
But historically it did.
Yes, it did start out with naturalistic, and that's where a lot of the medical doctors, they went to the Amazon, or they went to the Caribbean or the South America, and they got a lot of medications, homeopathy. That's what it's derived from.
Right.
Is through our trees and insects and things like that.
So how do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can call. Call me. I have my card. You can go on Brown Legacy Group 70 at yahoo.com, and they can email me if they have any needs right now. But my website is in under construction right now, so I'm working on that.
Give us the email one more time.
Brown Legacy Group, or GRP, Brown Legacy GRP 70 at yahoo.com.
Well, if you're listening and you want to help things out, you can call on Angie, and she'll be there for you. You can depend on her. She's trustworthy, reliable, honest, and we love her to death.
God-fearing lady.
Amen. So, Lawrence, this goes back to what we started with the program. Christians are supposed to be active. And when that COVID thing came, it really defined people and churches. So there was I think in the very beginning it was reasonable because we didn't know what we're dealing with. Right. We were being told all this stuff. So of course you take precautions. And for a while, that was a good thing, I think.
Absolutely. There's ways we could prevent getting sick.
But I know a phony salesman when I hear one. And when I listen to Fauci, it didn't take, I'm not aware, I'm not up to date on the data, but I thought that guy is, he's snowballing us.
Oh my
This
goodness.
guy is not trustworthy. I just didn't trust him one lick.
There were no guarantees.
But I got frustrated with Trump because Trump is the one that put him in there.
Yep.
And I thought, well, he does a lot of good things, but that was a real bad judgment putting Fauci in there. And then we ended up with all this totally untrue information, and it's still going on. They're coming out. They're trying to bring the masks out again. They're trying to, scramble for whatever, they can, however they can control us.
Do not comply. That's all I can say is do not comply. We know better. We know better now because we went through it, and we know that this is all a hoax. So,
but we have the data, though, too.
And we
it's
have
not
the
just
data,
your opinion.
And we have the proof, and we have alternative remedies if you do happen to get sick or happen to get COVID, or even if you did get the shot. There are remedies to where you can detoxify your body and get rid of all of that out now. So you do not have to succumb to these lies because it's a cult. It's a real, that's what it is. It's a real cult. And I was listening to Critical Thinking with Larry Palevsky. He's a real world-renowned doctor. And Brian Ardis, I don't know if you guys know him, but he was at our, remember we had the big event at the church with the remdesivir and people, if they're offering you remdesivir in the hospitals, say no. And they'll try to give it to you anyway. So you guys need to walk out, get out of that. Try not to go in them hospitals. But anyway, Brian Ardis had made a really good point. He said that the act of actually putting on the mask, you're actually accepting what the cult is saying, and you're a part of that cult. When every time you put that mask on, you're participating in that cult.
I want to hear your response to that, Lawrence, because I know you've got really good insight there.
Well, one thing kind of related to this, I really want to encourage people who are up in your area to check out Angie's business here and the treatment that she offers, because I've had quite an education in this over the last several years. There's a place for Western medicine, but I call it BCD medicine. It's burn it, cut it, drug it.
Yep.
Cut it, drug it. Our doctors don't know what to do with it. And I'm a living example of that. I had double bypass operation almost 24 years ago. And I had a condition called the widowmaker. If it weren't for Western medicine and what they can do, I would have died within a matter of a few weeks after that operation. But now I'm still around almost 24 years later. On the other side, the other options available to us, I mean, Western medicine doesn't provide it all. And I've seen this. And for example, I'm getting some treatment here now through something called craniosacral, which is absolutely phenomenal. Several months ago, I had such terrible pain in my back that radiated down my left arm and also would give these little zingers. And so I was pretty sure I had a pinched nerve. I went into my regular Western doctor, and he said, he did some x-rays and stuff, and he says, well, you have moderate to severe arthritic degeneration of the spine. There really isn't much we can do for you. I can give you pain pills, which I didn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. He says, after that, we can give you some shots. And after that, we can fuse two vertebrae together. And that's about all we can do. So I just went around being miserable. The pain was terrible. I felt like I was being tortured 24 hours a day. But then I started with this craniosacral therapy that we'd learned about. And it was incredible. Immediately, I started having relief, and I'd have a couple of good days, and then I might have another 3 or 4 bad days. But after only about 3 treatments, I'm to the point now I do not have that pain at all.
Wonderful.
Well, what is the treatment?
Pardon?
What is the treatment? Describe the treatment.
Okay, this is where it gets a little freaky, and I know a lot of people that we have to.
It took the pain away, right?
Right. Well,
okay.
It works on the principle of Eastern, the Asian medicine. They emphasize energy, and this is something that should be more acceptable to us in the West now, because for over 100 years, because of the work of guys like Albert Einstein and Max Planck, who gave us I just drew a blank on it, quantum physics and quantum mechanics. We believe that everything is energy. Well, if everything is energy, then everything that makes you sick has to do with something about a bad flow of energy with you, and everything that's going to heal you has to do with energy. Well, craniosacral does that. They basically, through a hands-on approach, manipulate the flow of your energy in your body. And it can be done. I mean, we tend to think, well, there must be some scalpel or some pill or some fancy electronic machine that's available to do this. No, they just manipulate the flow of energy in your body. The therapist will use her own energy and manipulate the flow of your energy. And I'm a living example of how that has worked, because I have not had that pain at all for months.
Wow.
And what a relief. You know? And talk about,
what do you think?
There are definitely things out there. There's also for cardio for folks who have issues with like chest pains and heart issues. It's called an enhanced external cardio pulsation machine. And all it is it's like cuffs that are on all extremities of your body, the legs and the arms, and it pulsates, and it creates a circulation in your body that gets rid of all the different clogging in your arteries, and it makes your heart pump a lot better. And people who've experienced chest pains or TIAs, ischemic accidents, they no longer have those. So there are machines and energy, and it's an energy wave. And then when you're there and you're just relaxing and you're in an optimal healing environment, you're bound to heal, no matter whether it's pain or whether it's chest pain, heart pain, any type of pain. You're definitely going to heal. So,
we are certainly fearfully and wonderfully made, aren't we?
Yes.
There's so much stuff out there that we don't know about. And the Bible doesn't cover a lot of things, just, I think, because of efficiency, meaning that we've got enough to deal with just with our own nature and sin and all of the other critical things that we have to.
Well, God has given us everything we need. He's given us the fruits. He's given us everything that has a seed, grows. There's a reason for that, because God has given us.
Where's that life in that little seed?
Exactly.
Where is that life? You can't identify that life in a little seed.
That's right.
And the same thing is true. For example, you know what the element is in fertilizer that makes things grow? It's called the long chain of the genetic link that has to be kept intact in the process of taking cow poop and turning it into something that's going to help a plant grow.
Exactly.
And who would think of that? The fertilizer is fertilizer.
That's right.
But
it's
you have to go down into the almost subatomic level to realize that life is in that.
Yes.
Somewhere. There's life in that. That's pretty profound.
That's how God works.
If I do say so myself.
That's how God works.
Most definitely. It all boils down to dirt.
That's where we came from.
Dirt, everything, all the plants grow because of the dirt. Then we eat the plants, or we eat the animals that eat the plant. And then when we're done here, we just dissolve and we become dirt again.
That's it.
This full circle of dirt is basically what life's about. And
well,
God made that dirt.
Son of a gun, you guys, it's we only have a minute and a half left in the program. This thing is taking off like a rocket ship.
Yes.
But what a pleasure to have you both on the show. Lawrence, you have such a gift from God. And Angie, I just admire your heart.
Thank you.
You walked away from security. It's really what happened.
Yeah.
You jumped
I leaped out on
there,
faith. That's what I did.
And we really hope and we pray that God will prosper you. And-
That's what I'm praying every day.
and we'll have to figure out how we can specifically contribute to growing your business. And we want people that are listening now to give you a call if they need that kind of help. One more time on the email address.
Brown Legacy GRP70 at yahoo.com.
One more time.
Brown Legacy GRP as in Paul 70 at yahoo.com. On duty ASAP Healthcare.
What a treat. Thank you both for being on Wild About Liberty. We hope that this has been some help to you, some encouragement. Tell other people about the program. Tell other people about KXEX, and to tune in to one of our shows that are on through the day and into the evening. Thank you again for Wild About Liberty. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Wild About Liberty with Terry Wild, only on KXEX 50.